Someone bites the dust at the end of episode 5. But who? Let's break it all down and figure it out together. 1923 so far has been a wild ride, filled with enough brutality to last you a century and heartbreaking reality checks about how things really were back in the day. After weeks of slow burns and repetitive journeys, episode 4 finally pushed the story forward. Whitfield's ambitions grew beyond mining, and we saw the exact moment he turned something as simple as skiing into a money-making scheme. On Dutton land, no less. Banner, once just Whitfield's enforcer, started questioning his role, making him a more complex character. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's pregnancy news was a rare bright spot, but it also handed Whitfield another potential weakness to exploit. Over at the ranch, Zane's brutal skull procedure was a reminder of 1923's unflinching realism. As for Spencer, well, his journey continues to be frustratingly slow, but he's closer to home than ever. And with Teonna in the same area, could their paths finally cross? Now, episode 5 takes us deeper into the chaos, with another shocking death. Or was it just a cliffhanger to keep us on the edge? Let's break it down. Episode 5 shifts some focus away from the OG Duttons to the newly minted Dutton Alexandra, and honestly, I'm not complaining. She's quickly become one of the show's most compelling characters, not just for her unwavering love for Spencer, but for the sheer resilience she shows against sexism and the brutal conditions thrown her way. There's something about Alexandra's blend of vulnerability and strength that resonates deeply, and it seems Taylor Sheridan has picked up on that because she gets even more screen time in this episode. Remember how she lost all her money in episode 4? I assumed she was at least close enough to home to scrape by until she finally reached Montana. Turns out I was dead wrong. Alexandra is still days away and she needs to eat. If not for herself, then for the baby that's growing inside her belly. What lengths will she go to earn the bread? Alexandra, who's probably never worked a day in her life, is now serving food on the train just to survive. That alone is rough, but things take a darker turn when a male passenger named Bernard harasses her, not once but twice, pushing things even further the second time. It's one of those moments that make you feel just as trapped and helpless as she does, making the whole thing even harder to watch. Before we dive into what really goes down with Alexandra on the train, here's a quick request. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. And if you're enjoying the breakdown, hit that notification bell so you don't miss my episode 6 recap. Drop a like if you're having a good time. Now, let's get into it. When Alexandra freezes in shock, everything goes silent, almost like her mind is shutting down to process what's happening. Then, as her rage builds, the sound floods back in, louder, sharper, and almost overwhelming. When she comes back to her senses, rage takes over, and she doesn't think twice before beating him bloody with the teapot. Go Alexandra, I guess. Alexandra's entire arc has been about resilience, and this moment cements why she's one of the most compelling characters in 1923. But, apparently, America had some strict laws in 1923. Alexandra couldn't just attack a man and walk away. She gets thrown into the train's holding cell, but luckily, a kind couple steps in, vouching for what really happened. With their testimony, Bernard is arrested and Alex is free, though the officer advises her to file a formal complaint. Just when she thinks it's over, she catches Mary, her former cabin mate, sneaking off with her luggage and money. Alex manages to take it back, but the moment is a stark reminder of how far a mother will go to protect her children. It's a lesson Alex is beginning to understand herself, one that gives her the strength to stand her ground. But her problems don't stop there. Her train to Fargo is canceled due to a snowdrift, leaving her stranded once again. Overwhelmed, she breaks down at yet another train station in yet another big city. Seeing her distress, the nice couple who stood up for her, Paul and Hillary, invite her to stay with them in Winnetka, a quiet village outside Chicago. With no other options, Alex accepts, hoping this detour might finally bring her some peace. But what if it ends up being another trap? Alexandra isn't the only one who keeps running into one hurdle after another. Spencer is in the same boat, or shall I say, train. Well, that's where he ends up after his encounter with Marshal Mamie Fawcett, who doesn't believe in coincidences. When she and her companions find Spencer, they question him about Teonna, Kent, and Renaud, but he's just focused on getting home. The moment he mentions Montana, Fawcett decides he's coming with them to Amarillo. Once in Amarillo, things get even more complicated. Spencer meets Marshall Hutchinson, and Fawcett reaches out to Sheriff McDowell to confirm his identity. It turns out that Spencer isn't just any man trying to get home, he's a war hero with a Medal of Honor. But McDowell doesn't see this as a victory. Instead, he warns Spencer not to come back and start a war, knowing full well that revenge is all Spencer has on his mind. Of course, Spencer doesn't care. He tells McDowell to let his aunt know he's on his way, setting up what's bound to be an explosive return. Fawcett, despite her suspicions, can't legally hold him. So the marshal buys Spencer a train ticket, as promised, one step closer to home. But at this rate, it feels like trouble is waiting at every station. I am also quite sick and tired of Spencer's plotless journey. Sure, there are hurdles, but how do they add to the plot? I would have liked it more had he bumped into Teonna in Amarillo, who's also in the same area, but he now has a train ticket. Will he still come across her before he hops on the train? Remains to be seen. But his journey needs to have more substance. I am officially bored of Spencer's plot. Actually, I am also bored of Alexandra's plot. Let's get to the reunion already. Remember the infamous train station from Yellowstone? Quick background, it's the Dutton's secret dumping ground for those who cross the family, an unmarked stretch of land where enemies disappear, never to be found. The law turns a blind eye because technically it's in a jurisdictional dead zone where no state claims authority. Well, 1923 finally shows us its origins. Banner Creighton and Clyde make their way to the site, unceremoniously dumping Christie's body into the abyss, setting a chilling precedent for what this place will become. Meanwhile, Lindy is out scouting for another woman to be at Whitfield's beck and call. One would think that Christie's death would dampen Whitfield's crazy side by a small margin, but nope. If it wasn't already clear that Whitfield sees people as disposable, this sequence hammers it in. Just like with his business ventures, he takes what he wants and discards the rest. Whitfield isn't the only one who's become a symbol of cruelty in 1923. In Texas, Father Renault watches a cattle drive pass through town, only to be interrupted by Marshal Kent, who's still hunting for Teonna Rainwater. Kent sees her as nothing more than a wild animal refusing to conform, while Renault frames her as pure evil. Their conversation with Anders, a reluctant informant, eventually leads them to Amarillo, where they pick up her trail heading north. Meanwhile, Teonna runs his horse, and Pete Plentyclouds push forward, hoping to reach Mexico. Pete sets off in search of water, assuming he's safe, but Teonna isn't convinced. She recalls how even great warriors like Chief Joseph and Geronimo couldn't escape America's grip. Her father, however, holds on to hope because, unlike them, they have no people left to fight for, which means nothing is tying them down. But fate has other plans. Pete, lost and disoriented, spots a deer and follows it, only to ride straight into Marshal Kent and Father Renault. A chase breaks out, Pete's horse collapses, and as the dust settles, both he and Kent fire their shots. The screen cuts to black. Who died? We never find out, but we will know more in episode 6, which I will be reviewing and breaking down next week. Worried you may miss it? Hit the bell icon to get notified as soon as I post. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and let me know what you think is next for Spencer. Do you think his troubles are finally over?